On the night of August 21st, 1986, a lake in Africa exploded, not metaphorically, not a volcanic eruption, not a tsunami. A lake, sitting completely still, silently released a force so powerful it killed every living thing within a 16-mile radius in under an hour. 1,700 people, dead by morning. And the scariest part? The lake looked exactly the same the next day. This is Lake Nyos, tucked into the mountains of Cameroon, West Africa. From the outside, it looks like a postcard. Deep blue water, lush green hills, peaceful villages dotting the shoreline, children playing near the water's edge, farmers tending their fields. A completely ordinary evening in a part of the world most people have never heard of. But underneath that calm surface, something had been building for centuries. A secret that geology kept hidden until it was far too late. To understand what happened that night, you need to understand something most people never learned in school. Some lakes breathe. Lake Nyos sits on top of a volcanic hotspot deep beneath the Earth's crust. For thousands of years, carbon dioxide has been slowly seeping up through the rock beneath the lake bed and dissolving directly into the water. Now here's where it gets strange. Water under pressure can hold an enormous amount of dissolved gas, far more than you'd ever expect. Think about a soda bottle. When it's sealed and pressurized, the liquid looks perfectly still. No bubbles, no movement, no hint of what's waiting inside. But the moment you release that pressure, the gas escapes all at once. Lake Nyos had been doing the same thing. Except instead of a bottle of soda, it was 1.6 cubic kilometers of water, holding enough CO2 to fill a small city for decades, for centuries, just sitting there, waiting. And on August the 21st, 1986, something triggered it. Scientists still debate exactly what caused the release. A small landslide, a minor underwater tremor, maybe nothing more than a sudden temperature shift in the water column, but whatever it was enough. At approximately 9:30 p.m., Lake Nyos turned itself inside out. A massive column of water, foam and gas erupted from the center of the lake, shooting 300 feet into the air. The lake level dropped by nearly a meter in seconds. The sound was described by distant survivors as a low rumble, almost like thunder, followed by complete silence. Not the silence of a storm passing, a different kind of silence. The kind that means something is wrong. And then the CO2 cloud began to move. Carbon dioxide is heavier than air. It doesn't rise and dissipate like smoke. It sinks. It flows. It hugs the ground like an invisible liquid. The cloud rolled down the mountain valleys at nearly 45 miles per hour, silently pouring into every village, every home, every valley within 16 miles. People had no warning, no smell, no sound. Carbon dioxide is completely odorless and colorless. The first sign anyone had was simply stopping breathing. Survivors, those who were on higher ground or survived because the gas thinned before reaching them, described waking up hours later surrounded by complete silence. No animals, no voices, no movement, just bodies, livestock, birds, insects. Everything within the kill zone was dead. One survivor, a young man named Joseph, described walking back to his village and finding his entire family collapsed in their home. He was the only one who had stepped outside at the right moment, a few feet in either direction, and he would have been gone too. In the village of Nyos itself, nearly 1,200 of its 1,300 residents were killed overnight. In neighboring villages, entire families were wiped out. Some villages lost every single person, not most of them, every single one. Total death toll, estimated at 1,700 to 1,800 people, all of them gone before sunrise, none of them knowing what hit them. When scientists arrived days later, they were baffled. There was no explosion crater, no lava, no flood damage, no wreckage of any kind. The lake sat there, calm, almost normal looking, except for a strange reddish-brown color from iron-rich water churned up from the depths. It took weeks to piece together what had happened. The phenomenon is called a limnic eruption, and Lake Nyos was only the second time in recorded history it had ever been observed. Just 2 years earlier, in 1984, a smaller version had occurred at nearby Lake Nyos, killing 37 people. But that event was so unusual, so completely outside any existing scientific framework, that it was initially blamed on a terrorist attack. Nobody had a word for it yet. The science didn't even exist. After Nyos, scientists scrambled to understand just how many other lakes around the world might be sitting on the same silent time bomb. The answer was deeply unsettling. There are 3 lakes in Central Africa currently classified as exploding lakes: Lake Nyos, Lake Nyos, and the largest, Lake Kivu, sitting on the border of Rwanda and the Democratic Republic of Congo. Lake Kivu is 2,000 times larger than Lake Nyos. It sits directly beside an active volcano, and it has over 2 million people living along its shores. Scientists estimate Lake Kivu contains enough dissolved CO2 and methane to dwarf the Nyos event by a factor that's almost impossible to comprehend. A limnic eruption at Lake Kivu wouldn't kill 1,700 people. It could potentially kill millions. And the volcano next to it, Mount Nyiragongo, erupted as recently as 2021, sending lava flowing toward the city of Goma, home to over 1 million people. The people living along Lake Kivu know the risk. Many of them have nowhere else to go. There is no evacuation plan that could move 2 million people in time, so they live beside it, fish from it, build their homes on its shores. Because what else do you do when the danger is everywhere and leaving isn't an option? After the Nyos disaster, the scientific community had to invent a solution to a problem that had never existed before. How do you diffuse a lake? The answer they came up with is as strange as the problem itself. They installed a series of degassing pipes, long tubes that run from the surface of the lake all the way down to the CO2-saturated depths. The pressure difference causes the deep water to rise naturally up the pipe, and as it rises, the gas slowly escapes into the open air in a controlled, harmless stream, like slowly letting air out of a balloon instead of letting it pop all at once. When the first pipe was installed in 2001, the results were dramatic. Water shot 150 feet into the air from the pipe, a visible, violent reminder of just how much pressure had been building down there for decades. Today, Lake Nyos has 3 degassing pipes installed and actively running. It's working. CO2 levels in the deep water have dropped significantly since the pipes went in. But here's the problem. The pipes were installed by international scientists operating on limited grant funding. Maintenance is inconsistent. The equipment ages. Locals don't always have the technical training to keep it running. And the volcanic activity beneath the lake floor never stops producing new gas. Some geologists estimate that if the infrastructure fails, or if the lake experiences a significant seismic event before the degassing process is complete, another eruption is still entirely possible. The lake isn't safe. It's just managed for now. But there's one more layer to this story that most people never hear. After the disaster, researchers studying the Nyos event realized something that fundamentally changed how scientists think about mass extinction events throughout history. The same mechanism, dissolved gas releasing rapidly from a large body of water, may explain several of history's most mysterious, unexplained mass death events. There are dozens of locations around the world where archaeologists have found large concentrations of ancient human and animal remains with no visible cause of death. No weapons, no disease markers, no flood evidence, no trauma, just bodies clustered together in the open, as if they simply stopped mid-stride. Some researchers now believe limnic eruptions from ancient lakes, from shallow inland seas, from large volcanic hydrothermal systems, may have triggered several of these ancient die-offs that history has never been able to explain. And it gets stranger. The largest extinction event in Earth's history, the Permian-Triassic extinction 252 million years ago, which wiped out 96% of all marine species and 70% of all land species on the entire planet, may have been partially driven by a global-scale version of exactly this. A runaway release of CO2 and methane from warming oceans and destabilizing seafloor deposits, turning the atmosphere itself temporarily toxic across vast regions of the Earth. What happened at Lake Nyos in one quiet night in 1986? Maybe a small local preview of what this planet is truly capable of. Think about that for a second. A single lake in rural Cameroon, an event that made almost no international headlines at the time, may be the clearest small-scale demonstration we have of a mechanism that once nearly ended all life on Earth. Scientists now study Lake Nyos not just as a local disaster, but as a living laboratory for planetary extinction. A window into forces so large they're almost impossible to study any other way. 1,700 people died that night without a single warning. No earthquake shaking the ground, no storm rolling in, no fire on the horizon. Just a lake, doing something lakes aren't supposed to do. And the most unsettling part isn't what happened, it's that it could happen again. Right now, scientists are monitoring 3 lakes with the same deadly potential. Engineers are racing to defuse them before something triggers another release. Governments are having quiet, uncomfortable conversations about whether to evacuate millions of people and who would pay for it. And somewhere at the bottom of Lake Kivu, 2,000 times larger than Lake Nyos, sitting next to an active volcano, surrounded by 2 million people with nowhere to run, the gas keeps building. Slowly, quietly, the way it always does. Until it doesn't. If this story made you question what else is hiding in plain sight, you're in the right place. Earthling Files, facts so weird they sound fake.